Welcome to Inside RMC. Thanks so much for joining us. Our heart in this podcast is to give the church just a deeper insight to the behind the scenes of Rocky Mountain Calvary. So Dan Johnson is with me, our missions pastor and young adults pastor, and Jenna, our women's ministry director. So how are you guys doing today?
Great.
Doing good.
Yeah.
I'm excited to hear from Jenna.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So the highlight of today's podcast is women's ministry. And man, women's ministry is just such a huge part of our church. Can't imagine RMC without women's ministry. Thank you so much for all you do and your team. And it's awesome to see what God's doing. I thought we could start with just what's the vision of Women of Calvary?
Yeah, that's a big question.
Yeah.
But I think, especially over the last couple of years, the vision has had to really change. But the really cool part about that is that God is the one who changed it. And a couple of years ago, when we started heading into all the difficulties in just our culture and COVID and all of the things, the Lord really gave me a picture of a chalkboard that was wiped clean. And it came to where we couldn't do the things that we used to do. And so over this last couple of years, he has just put things back into place. And even times when we've tried to do things that we know or that we are used to, they're not working the same way. And so we've seen a lot of growth in the individuals who are attending here, in their spiritual growth, in their desire to be a part of RMC. It's really neat to see people deciding, this is my church home.
Yeah.
This really is my church family. And that has become the vision of what women's ministry is in this season, of really connecting with who we are together as women and how do we fit into this body here at RMC.
That's awesome. Did you see a big change in people through COVID, and especially the women of our church, and kind of when things reopened, what was their attitude or demeanor? Were they a lot hungrier for connection, fellowship?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was just really difficult when we couldn't meet in the same way. But people are so willing, all the ladies were so willing to do whatever we had to do when it came to our classrooms or availability or being online or whatever. Everybody was just so gracious with the whole process. But as soon as those doors reopened and there was more freedom again, classes filled up immediately. Involvement has increased. Our retreat has sold out for the last 2 years in a row. That's never happened before. And this past year, our retreat, there were about 200 women who attended, and it's not about numbers. That's just what it was this year.
Right.
But of the women who attended, half of them had never been to a retreat before, never been to our retreat, and many of them, it was their very first retreat at all. So it was a very exciting weekend.
Yeah.
And we're seeing that with our classes, new women in the Bible studies. They're just brand new faces everywhere. It's really wonderful.
That's awesome.
That's cool. You mentioned the brand new faces. I love watching women's ministry. You guys, you're full. I mean, your schedule's full and in a blessed way. But what a cool thing. I mean, at Rocky Mountain, we encounter so many women who are single moms and who are in a place where even their family may not support them.
Yeah.
Thinking of someone who came recently for prayer in that exact situation.
Yes.
I was so excited to be able to refer her to you and to your ministry. And how do you handle all the new faces, the new needs, and meeting people at their time of need in women's ministry?
Well, for me personally, that I just know is a gift from the Lord. I love meeting new women. I love seeing a new face. I love being out in the foyer and just smiling at people and saying hello. And I know, like the gal you're talking about, when I had the chance to meet her with you, it's just a blessing because you're seeing God work in their life, even amidst really tough spots. But it's just such a privilege to be a part of those seasons of people's lives, because then we get to see the transformation take place. We get to be the cheerleaders on the side, encouraging them. No, come back for service next week. No, you can sign up for this Bible study. We have an event coming up. We want to see you. We want to be a part of this with you. And to see their response is very rewarding. But really, all of what we do couldn't happen without a huge group of other women who really make up the women's ministry team. And that is something that I have grown in a lot over the last 3 years in being here. Overseeing the ministry is one thing, but seeing people in their giftings and knowing and acknowledging that I can't do it all, but knowing that God is doing something, and if he's doing it, and there are people there to fill those spots, and God is bringing the volunteers and the leadership for those areas, then let's go. Let's do it. So, and that's what we've been about these last couple of years.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Do you mind sharing just your journey with Rocky Mountain Calvary, like how you and your family, got to Colorado Springs and got plugged into RMC? I'm sure some listeners may not know your husband, Rob, is on staff as well. One of our pastors oversees men's and marriage ministry. But just when did you guys move to Colorado Springs? How did God call you to Rocky Mountain Calvary? What was it like for you getting involved with women's ministry as a newbie?
Yes. Well, we moved here in the beginning of 2017. Actually, Rob got here in the fall of 2016. It had to do with work and finding a house and a quick market and nowhere for us to be. So we were still staying where we lived previously in California. And for us moving out here, God really just shut every door. Ministry that we were involved in before, work we were doing, he was closing doors. And even the church we were attending, the church was great, the people were still great, we loved all of that, but it was literally like he shut our ears and took away things that kept us where we were to where we started going, okay, Lord, where would you have us go? And both of us kind of thought about, well, if we were just going to pick a place, where would we go? And we thought about where we were raised and would we ever go back there? And that did not feel like a calling at all. And for some reason, Colorado kept coming up, and Colorado Springs specifically. And we had some very unusual confirmations about that, and we just heeded those things. And so we had our son's friend got married out here in 2016, and we used that as a trip to kind of explore and get to know the church. We in the ministry stuff we were involved in before. I worked for a pregnancy center before, and we did abstinence education and church groups and youth groups. And that's when my husband, Rob, actually reached out to Pastor Eric way back then to talk about us doing some kind of a presentation here. And the church had just done something at that point. And we got connected with a different Calvary Chapel at the time, which allowed us to do ministry out here a little bit. But when Rob got the job here and we started moving, or the process of moving here, I kept saying, okay, well, check out different churches so that when I get here, you'll have tried different churches. And so, it'd be Wednesday night. Oh, are you going to go to service? Yeah. Where are you going? I'm going to Rocky Mountain Calvary. Oh, okay. Sunday. Oh, it's church day. So where are you going to pick today? And he's like, oh, well, I'm sitting here at Rocky Mountain Calvary. And after about 3 or 4 weeks, I was like, honey, you're kind of making this your home.
Yeah.
And he's like, I feel like it's home. I feel like I can't wait for you to be here, and this is our home.
Oh, wow.
And I definitely felt that when I came in, too. It felt like a place that was welcoming. I felt like a place that was, now, albeit I came from a small church, and this was a big church, but I knew that the teaching was solid. Thank you for the word that you bring regularly. The worship allowed me to worship. We were able to just come and be here. And not be overly involved. We spent a year quiet and didn't do a lot. But I did stand out in that foyer after a while from being in a small church where you know everybody. And I just started looking around and going, hi, hello.
Did it feel lonely?
Good morning. Yeah. It can feel like a lonely place.
Yeah.
It can feel very big.
Right.
And I think that has trickled into our women's ministry because our ladies and our volunteers, we want to see you. We want to notice that you are new at something. You're looking around. You don't know where you're going. Where's your classroom? Where do your kids go? Whatever the case may be. And we want to see you and offer direction for you and just be a face. Hey, I go to 11 o'clock service too. Oh, hey, I'll see you at this other thing. So that's kind of how I started my women's ministry, just saying hi to people, really. And then getting involved in small ways. I would do a one-off volunteer event, something that wasn't a large commitment. I volunteered for the daddy-daughter dance. We came for the harvest gathering. where you can just do quick little things and then go home.
Yeah. I remember when you and Rob and your daughter volunteered for pictures with the father-daughter dance, and that was cool to see you guys serve together.
Yeah, that's probably one of my favorite events. That's a good one.
Yeah, it is.
Well, it's funny because you mentioned you just kind of sat quiet for a year, and I don't remember that because I was like, who is this? I saw you up, and the children's ministry was doing, maybe it was a Christmas thing, and you were up there guiding them. No, it was the end of the VBS. That's what it was. And you were up there cheering along and guiding them, and I had never even seen you before, so that was my introduction to you.
That's funny.
Was seeing you up there, and so it wasn't too quiet. But, yeah, I can also recognize, you guys were around for a while, but you were so quick to get to know the staff and the volunteers, just get plugged in and make relationships. Beth and I had that same kind of thing where we came from Minnesota here, and we were going to look at every church, and landed at Rocky Mountain Calvary, never actually went to a different church.
Yeah.
And that was, 15, 16 years ago now.
Amen.
But it's home. It really is. I love that you are intentional in your ministry. The women are intentional to make sure you're seen, you're heard. How many are really actively volunteering in women's ministry and pursuing that intentionality?
That's a challenging question. As far as we have women who lead things as volunteers. We have Bible study leaders. We have event coordinators. We have our own volunteer coordinator who helps staff our events with volunteers and gets to know them and help plug them into the spots. As far as our leadership, we probably have 40 to 50 leadership women who are consistently and currently serving. In addition to that, we have just our general volunteers. We have people who serve with our single moms ministry. And there's a little team there that's growing. We have people that serve on events teams. When there's events going on, they come and decorate and they do certain things. And that could be another 50-some plus ladies who are involved. And that's wonderful too, because that kind of ebbs and flows with your life and the season. Sometimes they can help and sometimes they can't. And I think one of the biggest benefits right now, and one of the things that with our volunteers and our leadership that we're focusing on is volunteering isn't just to volunteer with us. And we don't need you to volunteer because we need you to volunteer. Yes, we need the help, and yes, we want you there. But it's a way that we get to know you and get to know their life. It's a way that we always say it's kind of our own connect group. It's a large connect group, but it's like our own connect group. And we want to see and know what's going on in people's lives. It's a way for us to actually get connected with them and see their involvement. We also get to see their spiritual gifts come alive and where they lead. I've had a number of questions with ladies over the years about, how do I become a leader here? How do I, it's not just about involvement. They know how to get involved, but how do I become a leader? And my encouragement to them is always, leadership is not a name tag that you stick on that says leader. Right. And leadership is who you are and it's what you do. So we get to see people's giftings and how they lead just because they show up. Yeah. They show up and they take over that food table or whatever, and they're sprucing it up and refilling, and they're serving women. Because if we with our leadership team and our volunteers, if we aren't serving our women and serving the community, then we are not representing Christ well the way he lived and the way he ended his service time with his disciples. So that's what we would want to do.
That's awesome. So I'm curious about this. So you transitioned to be the women's ministry director from Donna Graham, who, amazing woman of God, still plugged into our church and had been the director for a lot of years, 15 years or so. How was that transition for you, from identifying calling to then stepping into it? And, because transition is fun and exciting and difficult.
It's fun and exciting and difficult. Well, Donna is wonderful, and she just was so sweet in the process of the transition taking place and loved on me and encouraged me. But in addition to that, the Lord was so encouraging in it, and he showed me the certainty of the calling before I said yes. And so I knew that in advance, which did help when things were challenging in the beginning. But again, the challenges were just learning the job.
Yeah.
The challenges didn't have to do with, am I supposed to be here? It's what are we doing here? And it's computer learning, and it's event planning, and it's looking at a calendar at a long distance, and all of these things happening at a quick pace. And I'm really grateful for that time. I remember at the beginning and talking with my husband about taking the position and what would that look like, and doing it on my own versus having help at the time. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, I could still be home part-time and have help, have an administrative assistant, because that was kind of what we talked about at the beginning.
Yep.
And I remember going home and Rob looking at me going, how are you going to know how to lead something that you don't know what it is that you're doing? And I had to sit with that and realize that he was right. And
ouch.
it was an ouch for sure, but he was basically calling me. If the Lord's calling you, my husband was saying, then go and do it, and then you're going to know what it is. And it was the greatest thing that we could have done as a family. It was so wise. I was so thankful for him to guide our family in that way. And then in that time, that's when COVID happened. So all the things that started spinning in my head of, well, this is how it's always been done. You know, you kind of have to keep the pace. It was very well set up when I came in. They had events planned and prepared and things where I could just come in and learn. I didn't have to do too much as far as that goes. But about the time that things were running out, that's when COVID hit.
Yeah.
That's when everything went online, and we had to shift gears completely anyways. That's when we started amping up our social media things that we do with our social media team. And that's when the Lord said, the slate is clean.
Yeah.
And so it was really, truly, I am so thankful that I can sit back and go, you know what? The Lord is guiding this ministry. He's guided it from the get-go. And I just get to buckle up and enjoy and be a part of what he's doing. And I'm so thankful for that. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really neat you mentioned, because sometimes stepping into a role and filling some rather large shoes.
yes.
You, you continue in the vision in the calendar that was laid out before you got there, which is a nice thing. Okay,
Yeah.
you can transition. But then COVID coming and turning it all upside down really forced you to find your own vision
Did.
and find your own way. Was who helped you with that? Who did you lean on at that time?
Well, one of the things that the Lord showed me in the beginning is this church has a foundation that has been laid by some incredible saints and people who love the Lord, people who have been serving here for a long time. They've raised their families here. Their families, their kids are adult kids raising kids now. A few of them are back from the original days, and then the old building days and the build on days. So they're people who have seen this
A lot of history. Yeah.
lot of
Yeah,
history
it's
here. And I believe that they are women who truly, truly want to see God's work continue to survive and thrive here. At the same time, we have women coming into new seasons of life on the other side. And we have the women in their 30s coming in, upper 30s. We have women in their 20s. They're now growing up and going, I'm an adult here. This is my church home. I want to fit in. And there's this established thing that's been going, and it runs, and it's been healthy and well for a long time. And when I came in, God showed me I'm in the middle of that. And I sit there between what has been laid, the foundation, and grabbing on to who is coming up. So
Yeah.
those are some of the gals that I reached out to
Cool.
the most, to see how they could see fitting in. What do they see the changes being? Asking for their help, asking, I need your input. I want to know what you see taking place, how you see what would be helpful to bring women in, but also asking them to come alongside in the work with our social media. Let's use the gals who are using it and doing it and love it and are equipped in those areas. I really don't have a lot to do with that because I don't need to anymore. In the beginning, I did. There were some busy days there with some of that in the beginning.
Yeah.
they're wonderful. But I think that's just the thing is the piece for the it's just seasons. They're going through new season changes, and I happen to be the one who has been brought in this time of this great season change of life and culture and everything, but to prepare these next coming generations and to say, yes, you are called by God, and we do want to see you serve, and we want to know what he has on your heart.
That's awesome.
It's really cool.
Can you give us like a snapshot of one of your favorite stories of, what God's doing? Like when you think of the retreat maybe, or, just something in this last season where you go, this was a specific moment in time where we really saw God move in a woman's life and women's ministry.
Oh, wow.
Could be a tough question.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. It's always good in Bible studies when you just see ladies get it.
Yeah.
But it's also, and I think this is kind of where we are now, again, sort of that looking at who's coming and how do we connect them with those who have been here.
Yeah.
But it's seeing those connections take place to build up that next generation, not just of believers, but of leadership. Because we have to be ready to be passing that on.
Right.
That's been really beneficial. One event that we do have coming up is something called Belong. And this is actually something I've wrestled with for quite a few months. I remember talking to you a number of months ago. I feel like God's doing something and he's wanting women to get connected to women's ministry. Maybe we should just sit down and have ice cream together with them and
ice cream is always
ice
good.
cream is always good. Pizza, ice cream, coffee, or tea. I guess some ladies would enjoy that better. But then I just didn't feel a peace about what is it that we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And, we talked back and forth about with my gals, should we do a survey? Hey, ladies, what do you think would be helpful?
Yeah.
There's all these ideas going on. And there's been a lot of asks over the last 6 to 9 months of, hey, have you ever thought about doing a Bible study about this type of thing? Or a support group or an activity for this type of life circumstance? There's been many where it all of a sudden felt like I'm holding this pile of all these things that these ladies are asking, and it's important to their heart, but we can't do all these things. And so I knew that God was doing something, but I needed to know what that was, because I don't know, that's a lot of things.
Yeah.
So really what God showed me is that it's the heart of the women. He's working in the hearts of the women, and they're asking, and this is where the name of this kind of came from, is how do I belong here? Where do I fit in here? And I don't know what he's going to do with all of those things, because again, we just can't do all of those things. But we can get to know these ladies, and here it really is the heart. It's the heart issue. They are being stirred by the Lord. They are stepping out in obedience to him of, hey, he's talking to me and he's telling me this, and maybe this isn't really the thing that we're going to do, but they're at least taking that first step. And that's what that Belong event is about on October 22nd, is for us to just get together and hear from our gals. But also for them to ask questions of the women's ministry leadership. What do you, we did this at our old church. What do you do here at Rocky Mountain Calvary? And how would that fit in? And we want to allow them that opportunity.
Sounds like really what God's doing in this season is really reaching out to all the new women in our church, because God has blessed us with a lot of new people at RMC.
There are.
And helping them belong and
Amen.
Really feel part of the family. That's really cool.
Amen, yeah.
So what do you do for fun? What do you and Rob and Monet, do for fun?
Yeah, we love being outside. I'd say we love hiking, but we haven't gotten in a lot of hiking lately. But I do love hiking and being outdoors. So this year has been quite the adventure of all the times to ask that. And we have taken on deciding to get chickens and ducks.
Okay.
And so
So fun.
here we go. So the whole summer has been pretty much devoted to this, but it's been so rewarding, as ornery as those things can be. It's allowed us really neat time as a family to be working on some projects together. We get to spend time outside together.
Yeah.
My daughter and I, we love animals a whole lot. Rob does too. And so it's just fun,
cool.
silly stuff.
Yeah.
But we like traveling. I like shopping.
Have you gotten
Yeah.
any eggs out of the chickens?
Yeah.
and
Not
ducks?
yet.
Okay.
No, we're close though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should be anytime having some eggs. So
Put me on the list of
yeah.
when you have eggs. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I just want to ask you, and you weren't prepared for this, but what would you want to say to the men of RMC regarding your ministry?
Oh, wow.
and I know I didn't prepare you, and that's unfair. So a little more to that. When I say the men, I'm thinking the spouses of the
Okay.
women that you minister with and to.
Hmm.
What would you say to them about their women? And yeah.
What would I tell them about
Yeah.
their women?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I would tell them that the men's relationship with the Lord is of the utmost importance in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And coming to church on Sunday is not enough. And to really, their women are looking for them to lead their home
Mm-hmm.
and to lead their families. And even, unmarried men and our single gals in our church, we're still looking for guys to lead us as church brothers in Christ, that we can recognize you're walking with the Lord, you're walking with the Lord, I'm walking with the Lord, and we're unified in that. And so just continue in those callings to Christ. Continue to encourage your women to grow.
Yeah.
They're trying.
Yeah.
They're trying, and it's hard. It's hard to grow and listen to the noise of the world and the confusion that our culture has out there for us right now. But I would say our women really, truly do love the Lord. They want to grow. They want to learn. And it just doesn't happen at the pace that we would want. We want it to be tomorrow or today.
Yeah.
I want to be better today. And it's
Yeah.
not. So we're trying, and we know the men are trying too.
Yeah.
But stay trying. Stay with it. Stay with the Lord and dig in wherever you can with him.
That's
Yeah.
really cool. As, just as one of the pastors on staff and loving the sheep as we were called, it is a real joy to be able to refer someone to you, to your
Amen. Thank
ministry.
you.
And the work you do is such a treasure and a blessing. So I just want to say I appreciate you, appreciate your husband, your family. It's pretty cool seeing the trio here at the office all the time.
It's really fun.
But you do carry yourself well. You are really like, okay, this is the Lord's or it's not happening. And so I can see that freedom in the way you lead, and it's a joy to watch.
Amen.
Yeah.
Praise the
Yeah.
Lord.
I want to say thank you too from Amber and I. It's a huge blessing to know the women are loved and cared for, and we're just so excited to see what God's doing. And I want to give a plug to ladies out there that aren't involved in women's ministry. There's Open Door, Open Arms, and it's really where a lot of great relationships take place. So thanks for taking the time to join us.
Thank you
yeah,
so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you.